Let's go across to Lord Meghnad Desai. He joins us on the phone line. Lord Desai, I appreciate you joining us here. As I pointed out, this is the second time that Vijay Mallya has been arrested in London. From what we do know, in the last time this matter was heard in court, which was in July, the date had been set for the trial to begin on the 4th of December. Now we're given to understand that a fresh affidavit has been filed by the Enforcement Directorate of India, and Vijay Mallya has been arrested in London. Can you explain to us what you make of this latest development?
Well, I just found out when you told me, because, it is not news in London, it's news in India, that Vijay Mallya has been arrested. But I suspect that his arrest doesn't necessarily mean he will be extradited to India. We have to see whether his lawyers can argue for a bail, and then there will have to be a proper trial. And I don't know whether the proposition on which is an arrest to the Money Laundering Act can allow the government of UK to extradite him to India. That is usually a much more tricky item, because in British law, because of the Human Rights Act, we haven't even been able to extradite known terrorists. Let's hope that somehow the government of India has got a tight case and they'll be able to get him extradited to India. But as of now, I won't give it much hope.
Lord Desai, you perhaps are right, Lord Desai, and I will come back to you in just a second. I would request you to please hold on, sir. We've also got Majid Memon, senior lawyer, joining us. Mr. Memon, appreciate you joining us. What does this arrest now mean? Because this is the second time that Vijay Mallya has been arrested in London. In fact, when the matter was last heard in a London court in July, Mr. Malya's barrister had confirmed to the court that his legal team had received about 800 pages of material from the Indian government. We're now given to understand that this arrest is in relation to a fresh affidavit filed by the Enforcement Directorate. Lord Meghnad Desai, they're pointing out that this may not necessarily mean that this will hasten the extradition proceedings itself. What do you make of this?
See, true that he is being arrested for the second time on the soil of England. In London, as we all know, that earlier, some weeks ago, he was already arrested and was enlarged on bail, and he had to execute a bail bond with certain conditions that he would not leave from London, and several other conditions were attached. He had to execute some security for that. Now he has been arrested again for different offences under by the Enforcement Directorate. I don't think he will have any difficulty in getting bail again, because after all, his extradition case from...
Because he's already on conditional bail, Mr. Menon.
No, I don't
He's
think
already out on conditional bail until December, which is the extradition proceedings.
I will tell you why there will be no difficulty in getting bail. The main reason would be that earlier he has been enlarged on bail, and if he has not committed any breach of any conditions that were imposed thereon, that would show his sincerity and honesty to the bond. And therefore, the court would again release him on bail. There will be extra security sought, and then he will be subject to various conditions. And then the extradition proceedings would now, in addition to earlier charges, the Government of India's request will become doubly strong, and the Crown prosecution, whose assistance the CBI will take, will put up a case for extradition in a stronger manner.
So, Mr. Memon, we don't have the exact details of why this arrest has been made, because as we've been pointing out, Mr. Mallya is already out on conditional bail. The proceedings for the extradition process are expected to start in the London court on the 4th of December. In fact, he's already appeared 3 times at the Westminster's Magistrates Court, and the last hearing in this matter was in July. So, Mr. Memon, what do you expect from here on? You're saying that you don't anticipate any difficulty in him being able to get bail, but do you believe that maybe there'll be a preponement of the proceedings which are expected to kick off in December?
No, it depends upon the request. You see, the CBI, our policemen cannot effect arrest there. They have done it with the assistance of the foreign agencies, and on the soil of London, the physical arrest can be only made by the French police. Now, the question is that it would be a mere formality. It's a technicality that he had to be arrested because he's slapped with a different charge. And then that different charge also he would be charge sheeted, placed before the magistrate, and extradition magistrate is one and the same. And before him, now probably whatever date may have been given earlier, in the earlier case, they would put this also on the same date rather than preponing the date.
Okay. Okay. Lord Desai, would you agree with that assessment that we just heard there from Majid Memon? As I pointed out, Mr. Malya is already out on conditional bail. In fact, to the magistrate's court, his lawyers had said that Mr. Malya wished to engage with the extradition process as constructively as possible. I'm quoting them here. So do you believe that this, in a sense, is a formality because there seems to have been a fresh charge that, that has been placed by way of this new affidavit that the ED has filed?
Yeah, I think, this arrest is all right, and it may be on a second time. But my view is that they would have to get a conviction before he can be extradited. And right now we haven't got a conviction yet. That's a long time away, a long way off. So I think it would be good to be patient about this.
Yes, you're right, Lord Desai, when you say that we ought to be patient about this. But, given the fact that the Indian government has made it very, very clear that they intend to exercise everything in their power to ensure that there is, in fact, an extradition that takes place here, what would you imagine, do you believe that perhaps we could see a preponement of the extradition process itself?
I think, I always say, there's a far too much excitement in India about Vijay Mallya. And Vijay Mallya may have committed offences in Indian law for which no Indian court has yet been able to convict him. But it doesn't mean that the British court will necessarily be either expeditious or definitely come out and convict him. Because, these matters of law are fairly tricky, and our Human Rights Act is very, very solid. We can't just extradite people like that just because the government of India says so. So I think I would advise Indian media to be patient and wait and find out really, how in other cases from the UK, the extradition has been very difficult.
Yes. And we take your advice on board, Lord Desai. You're absolutely right in suggesting that that there needs to be some degree of patience as well as proportion as we report on this matter. Just again, for the information of our viewers, the last time that this matter was heard in the magistrate's court was in July. In fact, Mr. Malya was not required to attend that court hearing, but he did come to court and he was listening to the proceedings as they took place. As I've already pointed out, Vijay Mallya is out on conditional bail until the December extradition hearing kicks off. So that is the background. What we are still awaiting is clarity on the affidavit that's been filed by the Enforcement Directorate, because, this business of money laundering, of funds being diverted from Kingfisher Airlines, the bank money that was lent to Kingfisher Airlines and that being diverted to tax havens, this has really been part of the CBI case that was built around Vijay Mallya, as well as the Enforcement Directorate's claims that have also been made in this case previously. So we are trying to understand what is the fresh evidence that has been put in place by the ED to ensure that this arrest has in fact taken place in London. We will continue to track that story, and as was expected, this is still unconfirmed, but what we are picking up from certain wire agencies is that Vijay Mallya perhaps is already out on bail. So we just need to get a confirmation on that. But as you heard, both Majid Memon as well as Lord Meghnad Desai tell us that they wouldn't be surprised at all if Vijay Mallya got bail in this matter. quick reaction also then from Mr. Subramaniam Swamy. Mr. Swamy, thanks very much. We understand that this is the second time that Vijay Mallya has been arrested in London. It also seems clear that he will perhaps get bail. Some wire agencies reporting that he may have in fact already got bail. Quick reaction from you, sir.
Well, this time he has been arrested for a specific charge of money laundering, and there will be a fight for bail. It won't be automatic, as it was last time. And even if he granted bail, we always have a right to move for its cancellation in order to be brought to India where all the documents are. And the British government has an agreement with us, and they will have to oblige us on this.
Yes, but Mr. Swamy, it will have to go to the extradition process, and the next date for the extradition hearing or the trial has actually been set for the month of December. So it's not as if with this arrest we can expect Mr. Mallya to be brought back before that process is underway.
See, on these questions of timetable, there are legal processes which we can't subvert. We can always go and ask that this should be given early because the case is open and shut.
Which we've been asking.
That he ran away from the country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we've made that claim. We've made that claim by way of the CBI as well as the Enforcement Directorate. But the matter is now being heard in the London Magistrates Court, and the next date is set for December. So merely the arrest today does not ensure that the extradition will either be preponed or is guaranteed.
See, fighting corruption is a long-distance matter. And we should not, expect all this angle of justice in these matters. I fought to send Ms. Jayalalitha and Shashikala to jail. It took me 22 years, but in the end, it got achieved. And many of these cases do take time because there is, in democratic countries, all kinds of provisions. But I'm sure that our Enforcement Directorate and the CBI would be pressing for an early determination of the case. We can, even if the date is fixed in December, it can also be advanced. So there is no question. The issue is that we will not give up. And that's the message that is clearly gone. It is not that we just forgot about it.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. Mr. Swamy, always a pleasure. So thanks very much for joining us. Let's go back to Majid Menon. And Mr. Menon, Lord Meghnad Desai saying that the press in India needs to exercise a degree of patience here, because it doesn't mean that with this arrest, either there could be a preponement or an advancement of the extradition proceedings, or that the extradition in itself is guaranteed unless there is a conviction in London. Mr. Menon, again, it's unconfirmed at this point in time. It's being reported by some wire agencies that Mr. Mallya, as you had told us, has already got bail in London. As I said, this is unconfirmed. We're still awaiting an official confirmation on that. Your comments, Mr. Menon.
See, this is, I must tell your viewers that as far as securing bail in a situation like this is concerned for anybody, including Mallya, it should not be a difficult task at all. It's a formality because the man has yet been not held guilty for any crime, much less a serious crime. Now, this man will, of course, be defending himself. He is challenging the proposed extradition. Now he is going to be put up before the extradition court, that is the local magistrates court in London City, which court also, because I have in past conducted an extradition proceeding in London on a request of India on behalf of the accused. So I would tell you from my experience that magistrates court is not going to go deep into the merits of the case or examine the evidence. The learned magistrate would only say that, well, a request...
In fact, Mr. Menon, I can now confirm, sir, that Vijay Mallya has in fact got bail. Just what we heard from both Lord Meghnad Desai as well as Majid Menon. It is now being confirmed Vijay Mallya has got bail. Yes, sir, please go on.
Now, see, therefore, as I told you, it's a mere formality that he had to execute a fresh bond vis-a-vis a fresh charge. Now, the request is already pending from India, India being a requesting state and UK being a requested state. Now, Crown prosecution will, on behalf of Indian government's request, would be furthering its cause. defense counsel on behalf of Mallya would be also opposing the extradition proposal. But then, as I said, the magistrate cannot go into the merits of the case. Therefore, if Vijay Mallya has to challenge the merits of the case and want the court to go deeper into the evidence, then in that event he will have to move to the High Court, which of course has happened in our case earlier. So this man, it will take quite some time, and it is also very expensive. But then since Mallya, in case of Mallya, a huge amount is involved, we can afford to spend a bit money so that we may successfully get him, and we can recover all that money belonging to different people, including banks and poor people who are investors. So let us make our best efforts to secure his presence in India to face the trial.
So, Mr. Menon, just to understand what you said, you said that he's out on bail, and this is what you had told us, that we should expect this to have happened because this was a fresh charge by way of an ED affidavit that was filed against Vijay Mallya, and hence he would have had to seek bail afresh, which he has now got. But this business of moving from the magistrate's court to a high court, sir, what do you believe are the odds now, given the fact that this latest arrest seems to be on the charge or pertaining to the prevention of money laundering?
See, I anticipate that a person of the stature of Vijay Mallya, a man who is very resourceful, who would hire the best of the legal minds, they are not going to concede to the request of extradition, and they are not going to just surrender and come back. That is what is anticipated. Now, in that situation, they would ask the court, the present court where Mallya is now being taken in, to examine the merits of accusations and may also raise various factual and legal points which the magistrate is not permitted to do. And therefore, in fact, they would invite an order from the magistrate against themselves so that they can go to the appellate court, which is the Chief Justice's court in England, in London itself. And there, the court has much wider powers to go into the details of the material available against him, and also examine the legal as well as factual contentions of the proposed extradited person. So, therefore, I think this is going to take quite some time. We have done it in the case of music director Nadeem. We had to invite the order because the magistrate said that I cannot look into the statements of the witnesses. I cannot look into the nature of material brought forth. I only see that the request is valid. I will have to simply send you. So we said we invite an order of extradition so that we go in appeal against that. And we went to the Chief Justice's court in appeal, and the Chief Justice exonerated Nadeem Saifi, and extradition was rejected.
So if you were part of Mr. Malya's legal team at this point, sir, what is the strategy that you would advise him? What is the strategy that you believe the Mallya legal team is going to be thinking of today, as of today?
I'm sure they are going to adopt the same course because there is no option. There is no other alternative. You see, they certainly cannot argue at length before the magistrates, so they have no option. They would also have to seek a particular forum where they can go deep into the nature of allegations, the contentions that this is not a criminal offense, it's a failure in business, or whatever it may be. It is for their team to apply their own mind, and I don't think my advice is needed to them because they have some best of the criminal lawyers team.
And I go back to the point that Lord Desai was making, that we need to hold our horses here in India and not get too excited about the possibility of an advancement of the extradition process, or in fact a guaranteed extradition. In your assessment, sir, and in your experience having dealt with this matter in the Nadeem case, what kind of timelines are we talking about, Mr. Memon?
No, see, I tell you, I have found criminal justice system in UK fairly good, fairly, I should say, up to the mark, in the sense that they have greater respect for human rights. They have a better system. We have still to learn several things from them. And as a matter of fact, if you can make out a good case, even if you are an individual fighting against a giant state, that is the government of India, you will certainly get all opportunities to put up your case effectively. The court would give you patient hearing. The court would apply its mind, and court would record reasoning for agreeing or disagreeing with your submissions and contentions. You have a full opportunity and full satisfaction with regard to pleading your case. And this is what Mallya wins, since a man, who can have the best of the criminal lawyers from the world. So I don't think he would have any difficulty, provided the case of the government of India is weak.
Okay. Well, the government believes that it has a very strong case. But just for some perspective, Mr. Memon, how long did the proceedings in the Nadeem case take, sir?
Yeah, it took quite some time. It took about 4 years. Because from 1997, when he was arrested, in the year 1997, he was arrested for alleged murder. And then he was stuck up in London, was not permitted to leave. He was directed to report to police station once a week, which he did. And therefore, he respected all the conditions relating to bail. So he was never put in custody. And immediately on arrest, he was released. He was never in custody even for one night. And then his case was taken to the Bow Street Magistrates Court, who had the jurisdiction for extradition matters. And then from there, we invited the order because the magistrate refused to go into merit. Then we went to the Chief Justice, Crown Chief Justice, and it's a division bench. And there we were heard to full length. Almost every document was examined by the learned two judges. One was the Chief Justice and another was a senior judge. And both of them examined almost all the documents of the prosecution, heard us fully, witnesses were examined, and therefore it took some time. And finally in 2002 or 3, because it took 5 or 6 years finally, but then after the government of India lost that case, naturally the government of India felt embarrassed, and they had gone even to the House of Lords in Westminster for leave, but then special leave was not granted, and the matter rested there.
Well, Mr. Memon, thank you very much for explaining the process and the procedure to us, and thank you very much for your time here on CNBC TV18. Majid Memon, senior lawyer there, explaining to us where this case could now be headed. Advait Setna, who appeared for the taxman against Vijay Mallya and other matters, also joins us. Advait, appreciate you joining us. Second time being arrested in London and being released on bail. That is where things stand as far as Vijay Mallya was concerned. But, we were just talking to Majid Memon, and his point of view is that this is now perhaps headed out of the magistrate's court to a higher court so that the matter can be heard on merit and go into the details of these specific charges that have been made. How would you read today's developments, Advait?
Just to give a little perspective, I think it is a very positive development as far as the government of India is concerned. The government of India does have a strong case, and as far as there are a lot of serious allegations against Vijay Mallya at this point of time with regard to money laundering, with regard to service tax defaults. So these are serious allegations, and particularly in view of the fact that he's arrested for the second time, the court has found substance, at least prima facie strength in the case of the government. Therefore, going forward, that is how the case would now be perhaps heard by the court further on, by the higher court. So therefore, prima facie, the court has found substance, and the government of India obviously would have to establish its case. And as Mr. Menon rightly pointed out, the justice system is similar in London as is in India. Ample of opportunities will be given to both sides to present their case. But looking at the seriousness of the charges, and ultimately depending upon how well the government of India is able to establish its allegations, I think going forward, we could expect a lot of positivity as far as the case of the government of India is concerned.
Okay, so Advait, you believe that the government has a strong case, and today's arrest is a further affirmation of that. But the fact of the matter, Advait, is that Mr. Mallya is out on bail. He was released right after his arrest. And as Mr. Memon was explaining to us, that this was a mere formality because the ED filed a fresh affidavit. That was the cause for today's arrest of Mr. Mallia, and hence the fact that he was already out on conditional bail, he has been granted fresh bail in this matter because a fresh affidavit with fresh charges seems to have been filed in London today. So in terms of the extradition process, do you think today's development materially changes the extradition process itself? Because the trial has now been set for December. Do you believe that this could perhaps mean an advancement of the process itself?
Yes, Shereen, it does indicate some kind of expedition in the process. And however, see, bail at this stage would always be is ordinarily granted in such cases because the court wants to hear the matter on merits before taking a final decision. Therefore, at this point in time, when the matter is heard at a preliminary stage, the benefit of doubt is given to the accused person. And both in England as well as in India, a bail, which is more as a matter of right, is offered to the accused so that the accused can present his case in an absolutely detailed manner. And we see that when the December the trial takes place, both parties would be given ample opportunities to plead their case, and in that sense, the extradition would ultimately depend upon the outcome as to whether both sides are able to establish their case on merit.
Okay. Advait, again, just to understand the kind of timelines that we're talking about here, and we had Lord Meghnad Desai also urging us to be patient and not come to a premature conclusion that the extradition process will be advanced, or that in fact an extradition is guaranteed, which of course will depend on a conviction in a London court. But if you go back to what Mr. Memon was explaining to us were the timelines that we saw, for instance, in the Nadeem case, arrested in 1997, and finally the matter went on for several years. What's the kind of timeline that we're talking about for this particular case?
Well, it is very difficult to kind of lay down a specific timeline as such. As Mr. Menon pointed out, the Nadeem case took 4 years. Now, it all depends upon the facts and circumstances of every case. But then, as extradition depends upon the final outcome, it would depend upon how much, the length of the trial. Because in a matter like this, the trial is expected to take some time. So we indeed need to be patient and wait as to how the matter unfolds there before the London court.
Okay, Advait, we're now getting information. This is, of course, source-based information, so I'll get you to comment on that. We understand that Mr. Mallia's arrest was made after a supplementary extradition request was submitted by the Enforcement Directorate. The supplementary ER that was filed involved the 900 crore rupees that was loaned by IDBI, which the ED claims has been money that's been laundered by Vijay Mallya. The ED has submitted evidence that Vijay Mallya used the 900 crore rupees and laundered that money to other companies, and of course, as is pretty self-evident that Mr. Mallia cannot leave London till the trial is ongoing. He's already out now on. He was out before this arrest on conditional bail, and he's out on bail yet again. So, just on the back of what the ED seems to have filed today, Advait, what do you make of that?
I think whatever ED had filed, of course, I've not got an opportunity to examine that, but I guess that would be a kind of, that would have satisfied the court in terms of the information that is provided by the ED, and that would go a long way in establishing, in helping the ED or assisting the ED to establish its charges of money laundering, and that would be considered at length on merits when the trial begins. So that is upon the ED to establish, and of course, for Mr. Mallia to disprove those allegations pertaining to the allegations of money laundering. Hello.
All right, Advait Setna, we'll have to leave it there, and we hope to speak with you again in a short while from now. Hopefully, we'll be able to piece together much more information. Advait, many thanks for joining us here on CNBC TV18. Advait Setna there. So Vijay Mallya being arrested for the second time in London and now out on bail. We will take a break, but don't go anywhere. The news continues here. Sorry? We have Utkarsh joining us now with what the ED has filed. Utkarsh, take us through what the ED has said in its latest affidavit.
Shereen, when we spoke to the top sources in Enforcement Directorate, they are confirming us that in the first week of September is what the supplementary ER was being filed, and this supplementary ER has been filed regarding the 900 crore rupees case of IDBI, and in which the ED has said that they have evidence that Vijay Mallya has used the money for the purpose of laundering. Now, this is the second time Vijay Mallya has been arrested. The first time when Vijay Mallya was being arrested, it was arrested on the request of the CBI on the basis of criminal conspiracy. This time, there's a different charge on Vijay Mallya, which is of money laundering. So clearly, this is more of a procedural arrest, Shereen. We'll have to really wait and watch once he's produced in the Westminster courts what happens. But when we spoke to our sources in ED, what they're saying is that it will basically strengthen the case against Vijay Mallya, but his arrest is more or less procedural in the way it was earlier. But clearly, ED and CBI, both of them are going ahead, filing separate charge sheets in terms of Vijay Mallya. The earlier one was with CBI, this one with ED, and we'll have to really wait and watch what happens in the Westminster Court in some time.
All right, Utkarsh, thanks very much for joining us with that. We will take a break, but there's a lot more coming up, so don't go anywhere.